I want to talk about how world travelers or travelers, whatever, are somehow cultured and worldly because they travel. This is not true. Now, okay, so I want to be clear about a couple things. What's a world traveler, right? So if you say I'm a world traveler, what would society generally consider to be a world traveler? I mean, technically, if you go to one other country, say you're Canadian and you go to Botswana, you're a world traveler, right? I guess. I mean, you've been to another country. You are a world traveler. I think what I'm talking about when I say that because you are a world traveler, whatever, because you've been to 5, 6, 7, 40 countries, it automatically means that you are worldly and you are cultured. So I'm going to offer my opinion about why I don't think this is true. Myself included. The number of countries I've been to, it does whatever. It's a number, right? It's more the experience you had. It's more what you did while you were traveling than the number of countries that you've been to. So what do I mean? You could have been to, let's use the number 10. You could have been to 10 countries. Say you're an American citizen and you've been to 10 full countries, not the airport, but you've gone out and you've explored and you've got 10 countries under your belt. What did you use your time doing? How did you spend your time? Did you go to Mexico and go to Cancun in the hotel zone, right? And you didn't go to downtown Cancun because that's too scary, right? And you didn't go to Chichen Itza, too far away or not what you wanted to see. Do you understand? Do you understand Mexican culture? No, you don't. And look, I understand that I'm being opinionated right now, and I understand that this might be offensive to people. The reason I don't care is because it is my opinion, right? We're allowed to have opinions. And if I'm saying something that sounds like you, and I'm calling you not cultured, it's not a personal thing. I have no personal thing against you. You're a lovely person. You could be a lovely person. I'm speaking in generalities. So to anybody that goes to Mexico and goes to Cancun and stays in the hotel zone, but they take the time to, wander out a bit, or they make some local friends that work in tourism, which if they're working in tourism, they're probably somewhat removed from society. Not necessarily, though. The folks that work in tourism in Mexico tend to be much more well off than the average Mexican citizen, and often they're supporting multiple members of their family, and they know what tourists want to hear, right? They know how to get a good tip. They know how to get a good tip, which good on them. They have to make money just like anybody else. But if you did go to Cancun and you did stay in the hotel zone, sure, could have you come away with a fair amount of Mexican culture? Maybe. I'm gonna say no though. So we're gonna stick with the example of the person that's been to 10 countries. Say that so they went to Mexico and now they're gonna go off and see Peru. Okay, so they go to Cusco, Peru, high in the mountains. What did they do in Peru? Did they leave the airport? I mean, did they leave the hotel? Did they stay in a luxury hotel? Did you go to more likely than Cusco would be Lima, right? You probably would be Lima, Peru. But if you're in Peru, you're probably there for what? Come on, I mean, 90%, 80% of people that go to Peru, you're probably there for Machu Picchu. But let's say you go to Peru and you don't go to Machu Picchu. Well, that's a huge difference there. Someone that goes to Peru and goes to Machu Picchu does the Inca Trail. The Inca Trail takes 7 days, right? I believe. Those two people are very different. The person that goes to Lima, stays in the hotel, eats McDonald's. Is that a likely scenario? I don't know. Probably not. But does it happen? Yeah, it happens. As a small example, do you know the tastiest soda or pop in Peru? Which happens to be Inca Kola. Inca Kola is fantastic. Tastes like bubble gum or cotton candy. Anyways, did you immerse yourself in cultural activities? Then let's say you went to Rome and you didn't go to the Trevi Fountain. You didn't go to the Colosseum. You found a couple of plazas that you felt comfortable with, and you ate at fairly touristy restaurants. You didn't learn any of the language, and you fly home. What did you see? What did you do? What can you speak to the experience of being in Rome? This is what I mean. I mean that there are folks that travel, and it's just a number. It's just I've been to 7 countries, one person could say, and I've been to the UAE, I've been to Cambodia, I've been to Paris, France, I've been to London, England, I've been to Cancun, Mexico. And that person can have very little knowledge about the countries that they went to by choosing the activities that they did. Throw in Bali, Indonesia, okay? They've been to Bali, Indonesia. Everybody wants to go to Bali, right? What did you do in Bali? Did you go to the clubs and get drunk every night? Or did you go to Uluwatu and see the Kerchak dance? Those are two very different experiences. Right? I mean, one is learning about what it's really like to be in Bali. The other's not. The other, you might as well be clubbing in Cleveland, Ohio. Tel Aviv. Say you've been to Tel Aviv, Israel. Good for you. What did you do in Tel Aviv? Because Tel Aviv has a lot of clubs, right? Tel Aviv's a happening place. If you clubbed for a week and and saw like 3 cultural destinations, are you now worldly? Are you now cultured? I think you get the point. I think you get the point that I'm kind of driving on here. Is this misconception that world travelers are somehow more knowledgeable than folks that maybe haven't traveled at all. there's that vibe that people put out there sometimes, that they've, been to X amount of countries, so they are somehow superior in understanding the world, understanding cultures, understanding civilizations, understanding their own country vis-a-vis the rest of the world, and somehow just kind of superior, right? So I used to kind of have this mentality when I was a young traveler, and it's just the wrong mentality. It's just plain wrong. I had, gone to London when I was 18, and, I backpacked Europe, but kind of, I was in England, London, England, and then I was in Barcelona, Spain. Then I was in Paris, France, and then I was in Greece for a long time. I think I spent 3 months in Greece, Ios, Mykonos, Athens. But, on the Greek islands, I bartended and I got really into that scene. In London, I bartended and I got really into that scene. I did spend, more than a year abroad, so I did bring a lot with me. I wouldn't necessarily say I was worldly. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was cultured. I had a lot of growing to do myself, and I had a lot of growing to do with my relation with travel. These curiosity-driven trips where you really put yourself out there. You really get in the mix. You really try the street food. You get really adventurous with what you eat. You're willing to eat scorpion. You're willing to eat duck blood. You're willing to try a local dance. You're willing to tour some of the most beautiful mosques in the world with open ears and actually listen to what the people have to say about that mosque. You're willing to put aside your own thoughts and misconceptions and stereotypes and give people a chance. You're willing to forego the small luxuries. You're willing to sleep on a goat hair blanket in Ethiopia to get to the Danakil Depression. You have to be willing to do stuff like that. I don't know anybody that can really see the world without adjusting what they consider their daily habits in as far as sleeping and food. If you refuse to eat the local food, if you refuse to stay in less than 5-star accommodations, your experience may be surface deep. I don't know for sure because I never have stayed in a 5-star hotel abroad. So I am open to being corrected fully on this entire podcast. I'm open to be called out as, ignorant and ridiculous. I'll hear you if you have a counterpoint. But in my opinion, you need to adjust your comforts. You have to be comfortable doing uncomfortable things. Being too hot without AC. Staying in hostels with too many people. Because you're meeting more. You're at the living standard of that country. If you're in Ethiopia, or name a lot of countries, Laos, Ethiopia, Windhoek, Namibia, any of the countries that struggle a bit and maybe have lower GDPs and have a lower quality of life, and you're staying in 5-star hotels. What do you know about Windhoek, Namibia? What do you know what it's like to be Namibian? If you go to Bujumbura, Burundi, and you stay in the nicest hotel they have, which is probably not actually that nice, and you separate yourself from the population of Burundians, and you don't live with them or try to experience their daily life, did you go to Burundi? That's my point. A good example of this is I was in, you know what? I don't remember. I was in East Africa, and actually, you know what? I think I was in Ethiopia. I recently spent a month in Ethiopia, so I'm kind of talking a lot about Ethiopia. It's just fresh on my mind right now. They have a sludge drink that they drink, right? Maybe it was Somalia. They have this sludge drink that they drink. It comes in like a big, huge barrel. It takes them like 3 days to make this, and there's a very specific name for it. I can't remember. So they lay out these grains to dry. And, you know, they're made in these mud hut kind of things in these communal spaces. And, you know, it's very unsanitary, but, you know, it is what it is. And they, this is not professional brewery. You know, this is not, you know, fermenting IPAs in a wine barrel or an oak aged, whatever. You know what I mean? An aged oak barrel. This, you know, it's a primal process. It's not. There's nothing, you know, formal and cleanly about it. They just sort of lay the grains on the ground and they dry out and they mix it with this, you know, I can't even remember. It looks like just looking at the drink, it looks like it's just dirt and some chunks of mud, maybe. So dirt. It just looks like dirt. Looks like you're drinking a bunch of mud. It tastes a little bit like beer. It's very sour. But I was willing to try it because I'm an adventurous eater and I accept that there's going to be times where I'm going to get sick. But to me, that kind of stuff is important. So here I am, you know, drinking this sludge made with probably water that's not particularly clean, probably hasn't been boiled for safety reasons, and, you know, made by, you know, people that they're just dipping their hands in this sludge, right? The person that's selling it is just, you know, dipping his or her hand in it and sort of putting it into a cup. So, I mean, this is not a sanitary process. Are you willing to do that? So, I think my experience, you know, as this sort of next level travel and taking travel to the extreme, I think I'm not a great example of what it means to be worldly. And I don't think I'm a good example of what it means to be cultured. So I started this podcast by saying, just because you've been to a few global cities does not mean that you're worldly. It does not mean that you're cultured. I would say the same about myself, even though I have been to a massive amount of countries. And I'm saying this because I sort of take it to weird levels. I take travel to weird levels. Not only do I want to go to Somalia, Mogadishu, which is, of course, currently experiencing a war, I want to go to the most dangerous areas of Mogadishu. Not only do I want to go to Guayaquil, Ecuador, I want to go to the most dangerous areas of Guayaquil, Ecuador. Not only do I want to go to Montevideo, I want to go to Montevideo and I want to be a homeless man and sleep outside for a night. One night, which, come on, do I really know what it's like to be homeless? No, of course not. So in my quest to take travel to these strange levels, I don't think I'm particularly cultured. So I'm not speaking down as if I'm on this pedestal of culture, in this pedestal of I am the example of a worldly cultured man. I'm not saying that at all. So I don't want this podcast to be taken that way. I just want my opinion out there regarding those that they've been to a few countries and they consider themselves, they've checked that box. Am I cultured? Yep. I've been to Morocco, or I've been to Ibiza. I am now worldly and cultured, and I look down on those that do not travel. Because travel is a hobby. Right? I mean, some people are avid readers. Some people are avid hikers. Some people have a plethora of things that they enjoy doing. Travel is really a hobby and a means of relaxation if you're a vacation person. If you're somebody that goes to warmer destinations during the winter and that kind of stuff. And that's kind of a whole different type of travel. I'm not going to talk about that because I don't think I've ever done that since I was a kid. I don't lay on beaches. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm sure it's lovely. I'm just weary of folks that are, 10 countries deep or whatever, and they are vocally putting down others that don't travel and putting down Americans for not, going to enough countries and stuff like that. And I do have an opinion about that, and I think it's unfair. I don't think you can label yourself worldly and cultured if you do, like I said, go to these countries and don't experience culture, or you don't really put yourself out there, or you find yourself in the clubs, whatever, or you only see the areas that are meant for tourists. It's like Jamaica, right? Kingstown, that's a rough city, right? So you can go to Jamaica and go to Sandals. Did you see Jamaica? Not really. You don't know what it's like to be Jamaican. Where's the best bread in the world? Do you know that? Do you know where the best bread is? Or your favorite bread? Mine's Georgia. The country of Georgia is my favorite bread on the planet. They have this cheesy bread that's really salty that is just so good. Can't remember the name of it. But so, yeah, you could be a person that's never been to a country and be more cultured and worldly than somebody that's been to 10 countries, in my opinion. Maybe you're an avid reader and you read about all these civilizations and all these current global issues that countries are facing. The challenges of South Sudan, the challenges of the Palestinians, the challenges of the Israelis, the challenges of just what is going on in the world right now. The fact that Burundians don't have any petrol, they don't have any gas. Do you, I mean, I'm sort of repeating myself now, so I'm going to sort of move forward on this podcast, but I think I've made my point. You could watch a lot of foreign films, consume a lot of foreign media. You could be a cultural anthropologist. You could learn cultures in a different way. Maybe you don't want to go to Myanmar, but you've read up on Myanmar and Tanaka, and Tanaka is a sunscreen that they put on their face, that the Burmese put on their face. You can be cultured and worldly without going to a single country, in my opinion. I know that doesn't make any sense worldly, but you've never been anywhere. But how you spend your time, the habits that you live by, healthy things like reading, and if you are curious about other cultures and countries, and the flags and why the flags are the way they are, and reading is just so good for you. And if you are one of those avid readers that is consuming a lot of information, international information rather, you could, be a cultured person. Maybe you know about a lot about wines, Peruvian wines, or Italian wines, or whatever. Those are all things that society, would consider cultured. Maybe you eat a lot of ethnic foods, whatever. If you put that person, the avid reader, the person that's adventurous in their eating and goes to a lot of ethnic restaurants and they consume a lot of international news and they are civilization curious, versus the guy who goes to 10 countries and just goes to clubs in each one of those countries. I've seen these travelers. They are all over East Asia. They are all over Indonesia. They are all over Thailand. They go to Phuket. They go to Pattaya. They go to Bangkok. They club for 7 days. They come back and they think they're Thai. It's ridiculous. So, that's my opinion on that.